here we are, halfway through the year. And for us, this midpoint is a real opportunity to stop, take time to reflect, and decide with intention who you are going to be in the second half of this year. Not just what you are going to do, but who you are going to become. You can set the most beautiful, detailed, faith-filled goal and still end up in the same place that you started. Not because you did not try hard enough, but because goal achievement is not just about what you do. It's about who you are being while you do it. Here is what I have learned and what science confirms. Your identity is not just a description of your past. It is actually a blueprint for your future. And if you have ever set goals, felt excited about it for a few weeks, and then returned back to exactly where you started, I want you to know that this is not a willpower problem. This is an identity problem. And today we are going to talk about how we can shift that together. Hi, friend. Welcome back. If you are new here, I'm Ileana. I'm a midlife coach, and I am here to help you reset your mindset, reclaim your sense of self, and step into the second half of your life with clarity and purpose. Let me tell you, this topic is one of the most transformative concepts I have explored because once you understand it, the way that you make decisions and show up through this world changes. Let's say you set a goal. Maybe it is getting healthier. Maybe it is starting that business, finally writing the book, taking the course, launching the channel, and having the conversation, making the change. You feel the excitement of it. You write it down. You tell yourself, this time is different. This time I am really going to do it. And then weeks later, nothing has changed. And you sit with that discouraged feelings, wondering why you cannot seem to follow through, why motivation feels so impossible to hold on to. I know what this feels like so well. Let me tell you, nothing is wrong with you, but something does need to shift. Neuroscience shows us that our brain is not just reacting to the world around us, it is actually predicting it. It has built an internal default model over the course of your entire life of who you are, your habits, your patterns, your tendencies, your fears, your strength. All of it is stored in this internal model. And your brain uses that model to motivate your choices, your feelings, your behaviors automatically without you even realizing it. So when you set a new goal, but you have not changed the model of who you are, your brain is still operating from the old blueprint. It is still motivating you to make the choices that the old version of you would make, not the new version, not the one with aspirations for the future, but the one it already knows. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You are not just fighting a bad habit, you are fighting your brain's entire internal default model of who you are, the model that was created over your life's experiences. But here's the good news. You can change the model. You can rewrite the blueprint. And when you do, your brain stops fighting you and it starts working for you automatically. This is the power of an identity shift. And for us in midlife, it is one of the most profound and life-changing things that we can do. In midlife, we hear the narrative that by now you are who you are. The mold is set. You are not going to fundamentally change at this stage of life. But that simply is not true. Neuroscience has proven how extraordinary the ability of our brain is. It is called neuroplasticity, the brain's lifelong ability to form new connections, rewire old patterns, and literally restructure itself based on new thoughts, new beliefs, and new behaviors. This does not stop at 30, 40, or 50. Research shows that the brain retains this neuroplasticity capacity well into our 60s, 70s, and beyond. In other words, you are never too old to change the internal model. Think about the identity that you have been walking around in for the last few years, not the aspirational version of yourself, the default one. What does she believe about herself? What does she believe is possible for her? What does she do when fear shows up? What does she say yes to? And what does she talk herself out of? Because most of us have never stopped to examine this. We just live from it day after day, making choices that are consistent with the model of ourselves that we may have inherited decades ago from our family, from our culture, from the painful things that happened to us, from the version of ourselves that we were forced to become during seasons that no longer define us. And here's the thing. Some of the old identities served us at some point as women who held everything together, who showed up for everyone else, who learned to be strong and capable and reliable. She got you here, and we need to honor her, but she may not be the woman who is meant to carry you into your next chapter. And the question I want you to sit with, the question that I believe every woman in midlife deserves to ask herself is this: who is the version of me who is living the life I actually want? Not the life I settled for or inherited, the life I genuinely want. Who is she? What does she believe? How does she carry herself? What does she do every single day? Because that woman already exists inside of you. She is not someone that you have to become from scratch. She is someone you have to intentionally choose to step into. So, how do we do this? How do we actually make this shift? Let me give you some real grounded, practical steps that I have learned and used in my own life and with the women that I coach. This does not have to be complicated. Sometimes the most powerful identity shifts start with the simplest decisions, one at a time. So, step one is to get clear on her. Carve out some time and sit down with your journal, somewhere quiet, and describe the version of you who has what you want. Who is she? Give her a full picture, not just what she has achieved, but who is she being? This is your future self. What is her mindset like? What does she believe about herself? What does she believe is possible? How does she handle hard days? What is her energy like when she walks into a room? What are her habits? Not just the big ones, but the small daily ones. How does she treat herself? How does she speak about herself? Get very specific. The more clearly that you can see her, the easier it becomes to close that gap between where you are and where she is. And for me personally, I would add, what does she believe about God, about her relationship with her higher power, about what he has placed inside of her, and what he is guiding her towards? For me, that spiritual dimension is not separate from identity. It is the foundation of it. But do what works for you. This is about having a clear picture of how you see your future self. Step two, act from her identity before you feel like her. This part most people miss. They wait to feel different before they act differently. But neuroscience actually tells us it works the other way around. Your brain watches your actions. It believes what you do more than what you say. So, if you have decided that you are a woman who prioritizes her health, start making one decision today that she, your future self, would make, starting with the lemon water, adding the steps every day. If you have decided that you are a woman who runs her own business, start making one decision today that she would make. You do not have to have it all figured out. The path will reveal itself. as you begin taking one action that is consistent with who you are deciding to become. And over time, as those actions accumulate, your brain updates the internal model. It starts to see you differently. And when it sees you differently, it starts motivating you differently as well. The resistance fades. The follow through becomes easier, not because you found more willpower, but because you are no longer fighting against your own brain model. Step 3, change what you say about yourself. Pay attention to the language that you use about yourself. When something does not work out, what do you tell yourself? When you try something new and it feels hard, what story do you reach for? Because your words are not just describing your identity, they are reinforcing it. Every time you say, I am not good at this, or this is just the way I am, or I am too old for that, you are giving your brain more evidence for the old model. Start speaking the new identity out loud, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it feels like you are not quite there yet. Say it anyway. I am a woman who takes care of herself. I am a woman who goes after her dream. I am a woman who trusts that God is not finished with her yet. Say it until your brain starts to believe it, and it will. Step 4, quiet the old story regularly. One of the most powerful things that you can do for identity shifting is create a regular practice of stillness, prayer, meditation, quiet walks, quiet journaling in the morning before the noise of the day rushes in. Because in those quiet moments, when you are not reacting to the world, not being pulled in many directions, you create space for the new identity to take root. Research shows that these practices of stillness actually quiet the part of the brain that holds our old stories or default self concept. And in that quiet, we become more open to a new way of seeing ourselves, more receptive to the inner voice reminding us who we are created to be, more connected to the woman we are being called to become. I personally love to use those quiet morning or evening moments to rehearse or write out who I am choosing to be that day, not who I have been, who I am becoming. It is one of the most grounding and transformative habits that I have implemented. In step 5, give yourself evidence of your wins. One of the most powerful things that you can do to cement a new identity is to start collecting evidence for it. Every time you do something that is consistent with who you are becoming, acknowledge it, write it down. I keep a weekly win list in my phone, and every time I feel accomplished, I add it to my win list. Tell yourself, see, that is who I am now. That is the woman I am choosing to be. Because your brain is always looking for evidence to confirm its model. Give it evidence for the new one. Celebrate small wins. Honor the tiny, courageous steps. They are not small, they are the building blocks of a completely new identity. And they add up faster than you think. Friend, here's what I want you to take with you from today. In midlife, many of us are living from an identity that was shaped by what other people needed from us. However, there comes a moment, and I believe that moment is now. For so many of you watching this, when you feel the stirring of something different, a longing to finally live from the inside out, to finally trust and act from who you actually are, not from who you were needed to be. And you know what? That steering is not a midlife crisis. That is a midlife calling. And it is one of the most pivotal invitations of your life because the second half of your life can be lived from a completely different identity than the first half. An identity rooted in clarity, faith, and deep knowing that you are a woman with a purpose that is not finished yet. And the beautiful truth is, you do not have to earn that identity. You just have to choose it and then choose it again tomorrow and the day after that. Know this, you are not stuck with the identity you have been living with. And who you have been up until this moment does not have to be who you are in the next one. The second half of your life can be the most intentional, most purposeful, and most fully alive chapter that you have ever lived. But it starts with a decision about who you are choosing to become, and what you are willing to believe it is still possible for you. So this week, your action step is to get clear on her and then make one decision from her identity. Just start with one, because every journey into a new identity begins with one single step. And you, my friend, are more than ready to take it. If this video spoke to something in you, please share it with a woman in your life who needs this reminder today. I have created resources to help you. Check the description below for those tools that can help you go deeper in this journey. And remember, you are not too old, it is not too late, and you are not behind. You are on time for the woman that you are becoming. I will see you in the next video that you don't want to miss. Take good care of yourself. Bye.